Okay, we have some coffee to cup here from Justin. Thank you, Justin. What we're gonna do is go through the whole process. I'll examine it. We'll have fun. We'll cup it. I'll write down my notes. Try to be in the zone and be very focused and try to give you my best cupping opinion. And that's what it is, just an opinion. And opinions are subjective. So let's get into it. Here is our sample. Let's see, how much did you give me? 29 grams. Cool. Yeah, that should be enough. And that's perfect. So send me just enough to cup, enough to burn, which is, that's pretty good. 30 grams is perfect. I'll give you some context to this roast in a second. It's very official notes. All right, on the nose, stewed meats, stewed tomato, like tomato bisque, tomato soup, very light dark chocolate note, meaty, very meaty, light tobacco note, not quite there, and roasted veggies, like a summer meal. All right, okay, cool. 4 minutes on the clock. Let's compare. So here is the context for this coffee. 145 gram batch on the Hot Top 2K Plus. Cool. All right, send me a link to the coffee. I can check that out later. Here are the details. 390 charge. You charge at the environmental temp. Cool. 30 seconds soak. Turning point is at 1 minute 12. Dry ends at 5 minutes 14. First crack 8 minutes 16. Drop at 10:46. 13% weight loss. You got spiced chocolate notes. Cool, very good. That is exactly the way to give me some context for these coffees that you want me to cup. Some other things, I think I asked you, when did you roast it? That would be relevant as well. So when was it roasted? It was cupped on June 3rd. Okay. So as we wait for this, we got 2 more minutes on the clock. Let's go ahead and compare it to some Rasuna that we have. So we have a Papua New Guinea from the Carpenter Estates, Sigri Estate Kula Grade AA. About $7.40 a pound, it looks like. This is cool that you guys send me the link to the coffee. That way I get a lot more context than I usually do. All right, we got a washed coffee here. Okay, we're not gonna read the tasting notes yet because I want to cup it and I don't want that to influence my cupping. I know you told me chocolate spice, but that's pretty general, so I don't think that's going to interfere too much. I have Rasuna here. Is this washed? Yes, it is actually. So we have a Papua New Guinea washed and we have an Indonesian washed coffee. I think we can compare. This is a relatively light roast, and I believe yours, looking at it though, the color of this, the crust, looking at the bean in comparison to mine here. Let's see if we can get a little comparison. Which one's lighter? This one, right? So we'll call this a medium on my little scale. Definitely went a little darker. I can just see that on the front of it. The beans are a little swelled as well. They don't look tipped or anything like that. Maybe it's a little darker on the sides, but you know, we're working with a hot top here, and hot top is not going to be your most consistent roaster. So we just do our best. But you definitely didn't burn it or scorch or tip. Looks really good. Okay. So let's go ahead and break the crust. Keep the notes dry. Big clove, dark chocolate, caramel coming off there. Oh no, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold it. Okay. All right, yeah, it's definitely a medium roasted coffee. I imagine this will be very pleasing to many people who maybe aren't into that very kind of, you know, fruit bombs and fermentation processes. crowd pleaser, but really good. And I think with a lot of experimentation in terms of roasting, even on a hot top or something, you can have a lot of variety of flavor and probably scale. This is all theory within the light and the medium realm of this coffee, and take it into dark if you wanted, probably. All right, like I say, we're gonna wait a good 5-6 minutes at least before we take our first sips. That's gonna be too hot right now. Do we have any like goals with this cupping? Or we're cupping and having fun? As far as I'm looking at it, it looks like a really standard roast. Like I gave you guys that standard, industry standard, 40-40-20. This kind of falls into that category, you know. I'll go ahead and put up the little stats for this roast here. Yeah, generally, you know, charging at $3.90 for a hot top was normal for me when I had my hot top. I had to charge higher because I was working with a little bit more weaker machine. So I had to give the machine more energy up front so I could do what I needed to do. You know, like I have a very powerful machine, thus I don't need to charge that high. Plus, I don't soak as well. So I didn't need to buffer the machine or the roast with more energy in that case. So a lot of the, you know, parameters at which you guys are roasting on doesn't really matter, like what machine you guys have. It's kind of like whatever works, and you have to fall within the parameters of the what your machine can actually do, you know, what it's capable of. Otherwise, if you follow what I'm doing, and I think I saw a lot of comments coming through on the little clips I've been putting out, and I think people are starting to see like, oh yeah, like that's just one way to do it. I hope that's really clear. I'll say it again. I'll say it like in every vlog, because I think when people come in and view the content, maybe they're seeing that for the first time. They haven't really seen my progression, how I've evolved as a roaster. And even as whatever I make today, June 3rd, 2022, that's going to evolve, that's going to change, you know. So I hope that that's always clear. I don't like to sound like a broken record, but sometimes, you know, people who've been following me for a long time probably get tired of hearing it. And then people who just come in and maybe they see one clip, they don't know exactly my context or where I come from, or like how I approach roast and why I talk about it the way I talk about it. So yeah, I can understand all of the little like quips that they're not like negative or anything. They're just like, why are you doing that? And it's valid questions, which I welcome. But it's one way to do it. I have one way of doing it based on the evidence that's in front of me, and based on, you know, what I like too, my style. And not everybody's style, and not everybody's gonna like the same thing. So yeah. I want to give you as much as I can, Justin, since you sent me a nice little sample here, and kind of answer anything more in depth that you've asked me in the DMs. Mill City Roasters put out, we're going to cup in a sec in our first sips. Mill City Roasters put out a video about cold brew, which I found really helpful. But for those of you who are home roasters and maybe you mess up, they validate it right there in that video, where it's like, if I make a crappy roast or it's not up to par, whatever the problem is, right? Turn it into cold brew, because in cold brew, because of the brewing process, it's really gonna kind of nullify a lot of these little things that you could probably taste, like say in a cupping for sure, or in a real, like, you know, pour over or even sell it. You know, turn it into a cold brew, because that cold brew process kind of nullifies it. And I'll link their video there. But for those of you who are afraid, because that's a lot of, I hear that a lot in your questions to me, is that you're afraid to mess up. And I gotta tell you right now, you're gonna mess up. You need to embrace that. And you may find that your perceived mess up before you even cupped it, right? Because I'm sure you're thinking that I've messed up at the roaster there. You haven't cupped it yet, but you think you've messed up. Your perceived mess ups may lead to something that tastes actually good or okay. You know, oh, cool. I have some flexibility with this coffee. I don't need to be spot on for me to still feel like I'm confident enough to sell this coffee, or it still has those acidic notes, or whatever the problem is, right? Whatever the issue is that you thought you messed up. But if you indeed messed up and you can and you can back that up with your cupping, turn into cold brew. Okay, we're at 7 minutes 25. Let's give this guy a whirl. All right, hit that. Big clove, big dark chocolate for sure, like you said. But the spice for me is a clove. Clove, like baking clove, or what's that other spice? It's like the spices that you put in a pumpkin roll, pumpkin pie, pumpkin roll, you know, like for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, you know, those kinds of baking goods. Okay, I find the body to be lacking in that it's a little thin for what I think this coffee can do. And it's not that it's bad, okay? It's more along, for me, the body's tea-like. So even though I'm getting that like light kind of tannin, like a black tea, kind of coating my mouth on the finish, I feel like it could be more syrupy in the body, could be thicker in the body. And I think where that's coming from is probably going to be, it could be in the middle phase. So we're at dry end at 5 minutes 14, first crack at 8 minutes 16. For the most part, I think that looks good. I think if you extend your first crack time or your middle phase by even by maybe 20 seconds or even 30 seconds, I think that body would come through a little bit more, and that it would get heavier. You would get more mouthfeel, I think. And it's almost apparent in, like, I'm not trying to criticize. I think there's so much more potential with this coffee, which is so cool. And I think it's the context that I know that you have a hot top, that perhaps that power is not really transferring and maybe giving you that even roast that you want. And you could see here on these beans, the ends are darker than the middle. And so that tells me, cool, we're getting that finish where we're getting those black tea notes. You know, that's where the astringency comes in, the good bitterness. And I think the syrupy or the body or the depth of this coffee is more like, you know, in the middle. Where that caramelization happens. And that's not always true. And this is all like a theory, this is all an opinion. But I think that's an experiment I would like to do with this coffee. Ooh, you know, as it's cooling, it's getting better, which is a good sign always. Cool, it's getting like more syrupy. The chocolate is becoming more milk versus dark, right? So the bitterness is kind of waning away into 10 minutes into letting it cool. Yeah, but it's there. Yeah, I could taste this, I could taste this like undeveloped thing. I think it's here in the middle, if I were to guess, you know. I have this light roast that I feel it kind of does the same way, but in the light version of it. Now this one, I feel like I did mess up, and that's why I was like, oh, I'll drink it for myself. And that's this one here. And you know what? Let's cup it to just be sure. That would be fun. So let me pause this and I'll come back. Okay. So we're going to compare it, and this is not like a, oh, is this one better than this one? No. What I want to test is, I feel that I messed up here in a sort of like, I underdeveloped probably most likely in the middle. That's the hardest part to nail consistently every single time when you're doing everything manually, for me anyway. I don't know for you. For you, it'd probably be, well, I'm dealing with an electric machine that I have to deal with this like 10-second, 20-second delay of power or responsiveness. So we all have our limitations. So what I want to test here in this little cupping against this Rasuna, which was roasted back in March. So cool. We might taste an oldness to it. But I want to taste this sort of like underdevelopedness. in this coffee. So let's see if I can pinpoint that out. Maybe, I don't know. What I feel like the body could be thicker here. Let's taste it again. We're at 14 minutes. You know what? It got really nice in waiting. It got syrupy in the body. So now I feel like it's fine. I was really nitpicking it. Like I was really trying to taste like every single layer of your roast just because I respect it and I respect you for sending me this sample, and I want to do my best to sort of pull all this out. The syrupiness, what I'm talking about is this thing that's sort of like syrupy. It's syrup in your mouth and kind of lingers in the bottom of your tongue and the bottom of your mouth, if that makes sense, like when you cup it. I don't know why I have like a wash for like when I'm only doing one. It's like habit. It's just a habit. Okay, so that's going. That's my little Rasuna here. We're gonna go against, not against, but you know what I mean. Okay. Yeah, I still feel like in my gut that there's a thinness to the body that could be deepened, and it would be excellent. I would really love it then. And that's, you know, I mean, if I cup this and I said, it's good, because it is good. But what I'm trying to do with these cuppings is not to criticize you and make you feel like, you know, like you didn't do a good job, which you did. Your numbers are all hitting those marks. Now, how do we modulate or how do we accentuate things? Right now, we could sell this. We could sell this coffee. Nobody would be any wiser than we care about your numbers. They'd be like, does it taste good? Yes, it does. Now, how do we make it excellent in a way? Maybe this is the answer. Maybe. We don't know, right? But that's what makes coffee really fun and cupping really fun. Because it's all about that experimentation. Like, what can we do? We got to this point. What else can we do? Otherwise, it would be very, very boring. All right. So we've got 2 minutes left on this guy. Okay, there you go. Let's break the crust. Now, my goal, I don't know the answer to it, but does underdeveloped, the note or the defect, does it taste the same in a medium roast and a light roast? That's interesting. Let's find out. I don't know. Because for one, what I would deem as underdeveloped could be different from what you deem as underdeveloped. Isn't that fun? So let's just see what we can taste. All right, we're at 20 minutes on your coffee, Justin. Still tasting very good. Again, the body, which I initially said was thin, as it cooled, got thicker for me, more syrupy, which was good. And that's why you have to taste at all different temperatures, kind of when it's piping hot, so you can see how the coffee transforms, because typically what they say, or what I've learned, is like, as a coffee cools, if it starts to taste better, that's a good sign. If it cools and it starts to taste worse, that's a bad sign. In that you probably need to readjust. If it's tasting good as it's cooling, you can relax a little bit and be like, okay, I think this coffee passes, you know, in terms of like whatever your margin of error of like, is this coffee sellable? Is this good? Does this meet the standard, right? If you're selling coffee, you most likely have a standard of selling this coffee. If you're below your standard, you know, it would kind of be not really great if you still sold it and still said, this is still the same coffee, right? And that's why we got to check ourselves and cup our own coffee. So yeah, the body's tasting really good. When I'm really like trying to taste through the whole slurp, I get this tinge of an underdevelopedness. It's really, really faint, but I'm wondering if I'll also taste it here. That's my thing, okay? They sure look similar though. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can kind of tell, like look at their color. So I have no idea what my roast is here, but oh, okay, we have the date, 3/18, notebook. Okay, look at this, it's pretty similar. So we've got a turning point at 1 minute 50. Dry end was at 4 minutes 49. First crack 8 minutes 42. I dropped it at 10 minutes 12. Final temperature was 377. Whoa. And I had a loss of 13.2. What were your numbers, Justin? They were really similar, weren't they? Except for my my ending temperature. I don't know what yours was. Ooh, this is fun. If you guys give me your, like, you give me your stats and we can one-to-one on, like, on the stats and stuff. It's fun. So, like, temperature too. I think you should also be monitoring your temperature. So you say TP at 1 minute 12, like, also get the temperature down. Because if you get the temperature down for all of these little markers that you're doing, you're also starting to kind of build in your data pattern. That way you can recognize those patterns. So you got patterns, cool. Like, okay, so something seems to always happen here at this temperature. Just like finishing temp. Like when I got 377.3 for my drop temperature, and you know, I don't normally do that. It should be in the 80s, like 380 something. I was like, ooh. This could be underdeveloped. So that's, again, that's what I want to test. Let's give this guy a whirl. Yeah. Okay, I feel like I've found something. There's a metal E taste that I'm tasting in both of our coffees, because I think something is underdeveloped. But this coffee, this Indonesian washed coffee, just like your Papua New Guinea washed coffee, right? So washed, yeah, washed. I think these coffees in general, washed coffees in general, they need a little bit more oomph than natural. That's the general rule, right? Like washed coffees need more energy than naturals. And so sometimes I think I forget that. And I start treating this Rasuna like a natural. I don't know why. I just did. And the numbers show that. All right, there's this metally taste. It's on the finish. And to me, that tastes to me, or I feel like, this is not confirmed, but my hypothesis is that that's some sort of underdevelopedness in the bean. Somewhere in the middle. We both have it. Both have it. There's this metally taste at the end. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. I knew this guy couldn't really sell it, so I started drinking for myself. I was like, that's off. And I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I knew it was off. And I think that's what it is. I don't know. Like I said, that could change. In the future, I could evolve and learn something more, and it would give me a little bit more, play with this. But these are my numbers I'm looking at. I'm looking at your numbers. That's very interesting. Or maybe it's not the middle. It's just finishing the coffee a little bit longer, but then being gentle with the finish. Don't know. This would be a fun experiment. I go, okay, I have this, tastes like this. There's a metal E thing. I should make a note of that in here in my notes. And it's not confirmed. Metally note finish. Does this equal underdeveloped? That's something I'll have to test. We made a video on it, so that helps. Okay. There's a metally thing. I don't know. That's what I'm tasting. Still good? Yeah, still good. But what we're trying to do is understand what the hell like these numbers mean in this context, because this is what matters in the end, right? But how do we modulate this? What matters in the end? We go back to here, we go back to our notes, we go back to the roaster, and then try to do something about it. But overall, Justin, very good coffee, very good. What we're doing is we're just nerding out and not picking on your coffee. Thank you for sending me this. That was really fun. I think we discovered something interesting, or maybe we didn't. We don't know. We have to go out there and test it, cup it, take good notes, and deliberate. Cool, so that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks for being patient. We were just on a little vacation. Now we're back, roasting coffees and such, and we'll see you in the next one.